Things I wish I knew when I was 18. So, this is a message directed for young men out there who are trying to court women, or a girl, or a girlfriend, or someone you like in your classroom. I know a lot of you have, most of you have good intentions, but many of you are misguided by a lot of false information and influenced by just a lot of bad incentives and bad behavior. So let me dispel some myths for you here on this particular episode. You've been lied to. Let me tell you about attraction. Attraction isn't random, and it's not just confidence or being yourself, whatever that means. Attraction is psychology, it's biology, it's thousands of years of survival instincts baked into human behavior. So if you don't know the rules of the game, you are playing blind. So let's start with human evolution, behavior, and attraction. So humans evolved to select mates based on who could best survive and reproduce. So, for example, men looked for signs of fertility, youth, health, beauty, right? Think of, again, benign things like the color red. Like, why are you attracted to red lipstick or a red dress or red heels, right? Or a red apple? Because red signifies fertility, youthfulness, fruitfulness, etc., etc. So I'm just kind of driving the point here with that. And women look for signs of protection, provision, and good genes, like status, strength, and intelligence. So why is that? Well, if you reverse the clock, I don't know, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 BC, if you will, when our ancestors were hunter gatherers, women also gathered and hunted as well. However, when they were pregnant, naturally they're vulnerable to predation, like, I don't know, cheetahs and lions and saber-tooth tigers, and to the elements, the weather, the climate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So during those 9 months, they're unable to provide certain tasks. So if they're going to take the risk of getting pregnant, they want to look for a mate who can provide, who can protect, again, while she's incapacitated, and who could pass on those good genes, those responsible genes of provision and protection onto the next generation, right? So this is where status evolved, if you will, right? Now, here's a key principle for young men. Women by nature aren't gold diggers, and they're definitely not gold diggers for wanting a man with potential, right? Evolution wired them to seek security. So when we think about gold diggers, if you will, that we're talking about social constructs like money, and money just a means of exchange. And to me, money is a medium of expression of these concepts I'm talking about, but that are bastardized and are exaggerated to an unhealthy degree. So, yes, once again, women are just hypergamous by nature. They're not gold diggers by nature. So, this isn't cynicism. This is survival programming, and it's not evil. This is ancient. This is rooted in our DNA. So you have to recognize it, respect it, and you have to rise above the bitterness. And you have to, let's, to Sun Tzu this, understand the battlefield before you step into it. Now, let's talk about let's talk about body language. So I want you to think about something. Do something interesting. Human language. How old is human language? How old is writing? Say writing's what, 5, 6,000 years old? Think of how we conceptualize the world and how we reference things in our world. Um, Benign things that exist today, like iPhone or, you know, electric car, EV. 100 years ago, if you say iPhone or car, these concepts or things, material things, didn't exist. If you go, I don't know, 10,000 years ago, the word own didn't exist. How can you own air or land, right? So when you think about it, how humans predominantly spoke for the majority of our evolution was through body language. We learned how to read body cues, and through there find out or interpret if this was courting or intimidation or a challenge. All the things you see in the animal kingdom, right? So these are some do's for men they can do with body language. Number one, have an open posture. Have your chest out, your shoulders relaxed. Um, Number two, direct eye contact. Now, this is important. Direct eye contact doesn't mean, an evasive, hard stare. We're talking about a relaxed eye contact. And also slow and deliberate movements, right? Show that you can control. And very subtle mirroring, right? Mirroring creates connection. If, you zip water, she zips water, or vice versa, right? This is a good sign. We're sort of attracted to people with our similar behaviors, if you will. These are some don'ts. Don't fidget, don't cross your arms or shrink your posture. Think about it. Fidgeting is a display, a subconscious display of nervousness, and crossing your arms is a sort of a defensive posture, right? And when you shrink your posture, that, at least to me, just sort of shows insecurity, if you will. So if you do these habitually, that's okay. But it's always important to be self aware and to be mindful. And that's sort of how we can't change who we are, but we adapt to our environment and we modify our behavior. Okay. Another thing too, I would say don't do is don't overstare, don't leer. Again, overstaring signals a threat, not attraction or predation, in my opinion. So think about, I don't know, you're somewhere out in public, and another person, let's say a man, he's staring at you a certain way, right? That could inspire many feelings in you. It could be a provocation, it could be an intimidation, it could be a threat. So women above all else are human beings first, and they naturally share the same feelings we do in that sense. So just be mindful of that. Now, let's go over some more body language cues, if you will, in the subconscious, because I think these things are are important and they're not spoken about enough. So, foot positioning. Think about your feet. So you're like, what does my feet have to do with anything? People's feet, they point towards what they want. So if you're trying to court a pretty girl in your college campus and you approach her and she's facing you fully, right? Her feet included. So you could subtly look down and look at her feet, see where they're pointing at. That means she's engaged. That means she's interested. But if her feet are angled away while her body's still facing you, that means that she's like halfway emotionally out. She's not feeling it. She's trying to get out of there. So the body moves before the mind admits it. Okay. So remember this: watch a person's actions, not their words. Right. So look at their actions, not their words. Another thing, again, I mentioned this earlier, which was mirroring. Right. Mirroring is a form of the silent connection. So it's subtle mimicry builds subconscious trust. Right. Mimicry is the best form of flattery. We are by nature tribal creatures, and we tend to like people who mirror us, right? We're from the same town, we like the same sports team, we went for the same alumni. You get the picture, right? We're naturally tribal. So mirroring. Another thing you can do is lean back slowly, and she'll mirror it if you're connected. Or, you're on a date, you're having drinks, zip your drink and she'll match your pace. Now, zip your drink. That doesn't mean, just shotgun your beer and then, take a shot. That's not mirroring. That's having a good time at FSU. So don't do that on your first date. Again, this is important. Always let her mirror you after you lead. not the other way around. So he who leads in silence rules without asking. Now let's talk about eye contact. Eye contact is something that I personally struggled with for various reasons. So strong eye contact when making points, that shows certainty and confidence. But again, not a piercing look, right? Relax your gaze. And also a soft eye break when listening. That shows emotional intelligence. And again, that prevents that invasiveness and sort of prevents, no, not sort of, actually prevents intimidation. Just remember the 70-30 rule, if you will, right? Look in her eyes 70% of the time when speaking, and then 30% of the time when listening. Now, I know these percentages are arbitrary. So just to make it simple, again, when she's speaking, look. When she's not, look away thoughtfully and then look back. And the eyes are the battlefield, and you have to win there first. So just like Tony Montana says, right? It's all in the eyes, Chico. They never lie, right? Now, pacing and stillness, right? This is where your power is. Your power lives in controlling this. Move slower than the room, right? Sudden, jerky, jittery movements that subconsciously equates to low status, right? And also practice stillness under pressure, right? I think always silence is domination. Silence is king. Think of predators in the wild, right? They don't flinch. Another important body language cue, if you will, or subtlety would be hand visibility. Keep your hands open and resting casually where it's visible, right? Hidden hands, like hiding your hands in your pockets or cross arms, that can signal nervousness or a deceit subconsciously, right? And this is hardwired in us. If I could see your hands, I feel safer. If I can't see your hands, they're in your pocket, they're behind, they're hidden under the table or something like that. Depending on the environment you're in, that could be seen as a threat, or it could be seen as, defensiveness, if you will. So, to put an analogy here, an honest warrior never hides their blade, but obviously, in some cases, you need to hide that blade. So, keep that in mind. What else can we talk about? Spatial command, situational awareness, if you will. All right. So, take your space naturally. You need your feet shoulder width, your spine straight, but again, relaxed. Don't shrink if others crowd you. So think if you are again in a bar in a nightclub setting and you're getting crowded, don't just shrink, right? Just shift slightly and replant your feet firm somewhere else. People instinctively respect those who look rooted or grounded, if you will, right? So the man who owns space owns attention. What else can we talk about? Oof, smile. Smile slow. Please, for the love of God, don't force a fake grin. This is something I see, and not only on younger men, but older men as well, where they're, trying to hit on a girl or court a young lady or whatever, and they're just smiling so hard. It's cringy. You feel embarrassed for them. You know what I mean? I'm sure many of you have seen this, and you can tell it's going to be just a total catastrophic failure. So don't force a fake grin and let your smile build slowly, but after eye contact. Make sure it's controlled, deliberate. In other words, just naturally, right? It also shows, my opinion, mastery over your emotions. So a slow smile is a weapon sharpened by time. So master your smile. What else can we talk about? Touching. Okay, yeah, this is an important one. A lot of you guys out there are very grabby. So with touching, especially touching someone of the opposite sex, this needs to be calibrated. This needs to have precision to an exact proximity, right? Um, Early touches should first be environmental. So touch the table, touch your glass, touch neutral objects, right? Then, as you know, you consider all the other subtle cues I gave you above, you do a light, respectful contact. For example, you're opening the door, you could put your hand, on her back, guiding her through the door. Again, her back, her upper back, not her lower back, not her ass, the back. Because this builds familiarity without a threat. So also, after you do that, gauge your response, right? A positive touch is met with either a touch back or leaning in, right? So she might touch you back, touch your shoulder, touch your hand. You get the idea, right? So again, to put a reference here, every empire was built with steps, not leaps. So ease into it, right? Don't look so thirsty, grabbing her all the time. My God. Let's see here. Some key takeaways or principles when it comes to this. Your body speaks before your mouth ever does. So remember that. Think of it like this, right? Like in the wild, predators move with certainty. Now, this doesn't mean you have to be a predator, so don't take this reference the wrong way. It's not what we're doing here. But again, the ones who's fidgeting is the prey, right? The prey fidgets, the prey darts, and your body, in other words, teaches her before your voice ever gets the chance. It teaches her who you are, in other words. Now, let's talk about some biological triggers that you need to understand. So, voice. Let's talk about your voice. A lower tone, for some reason, equals more attractiveness, where you seem more attractive. I believe this has something to do with testosterone markers, if you will, manhood or something of that sort. But you get the idea. Soft, low tone. Obviously, you don't have to sound like Barry White, but, just low tone is better. Your facial symmetry. Good grooming maximizes these natural features. So grooming is important. I know right now it's fashionable. I've seen this fad where these men grow beards like they're Osama bin Laden. For the love of God, stop and shave, or at least trim it. Do something with that damn thing. Just cut your goddamn beards. But whatever, teach his own. That's just my personal preference and opinion on that. Another very important one is scent, your hygiene, right? A clean, natural, masculine scent, that can trigger subconscious attraction. Think of, pheromones or the pheromonal effect. Remember that at the end of the day, we're animals and we have a three-dimensional experience, right? Sight, see, hear, touch, taste, right? Smell. And so try to smell good. And just like you like women to smell good as well, or their pheromones or chemical profile, if you will. And of course, touch, back to touch. Again, ease into it, gradual, appropriate touching, right? The hand, the back, a handshake, that builds physical rapport. You got to remember that attraction is chemical. So control you can control your voice, your hygiene, your grooming, and don't stress about what you can't control. So you can't control your facial symmetry, your aesthetics, your height, things of that sort are completely out of your control. But just do the best you can with what God gave you, if you will. And again, evolution gave you a few dials you can actually turn. So the dials you do have, again, max out what's in your control and forget the rest. Now, let's talk about emotional and social psychological factors, if you will. Some of this is pretty difficult for some men. So your status matters. Again, it's not just money. Money is a social construct. This is something that's been deified in our society and is seen as the end all be all. If I have X amount of money in my bank, or if I'm driving this car, this is all I need. And I'm here to tell you that is absolute bullshit. That is a fantasy, right? Yeah, money obviously gives you security, but that's just one variable in this equation. Okay. What's the real currency, the real human currency, is social proof, purpose, and having respect from your peers. So if you have that, doesn't matter if you're a barista at Starbucks or a neurosurgeon, that's where the money is, and how your peers acknowledge you, and you know your purpose in life, if you will. Now, confidence, to talk about confidence, isn't just energy. It's calm, it moves slowly, confidence speaks clearly, and it's also being unbothered as well. So, what else there is there? Oh, humor. Humor is important. Humor kills anxiety. So, a little bit of playful teasing can show intelligence and emotional control. Now, what I mean by playful teasing, if you go on a date and you're going to just make fun of her for a whole hour, that's not teasing. That's just you being a prick. So don't do that. Tease again, playfully, lightly, at the right moments, and also, make fun of yourself. Now, this doesn't mean you have to be self-deprecating when making fun of yourself, but what this means is don't take yourself so seriously, right? And don't get so easily rattled over what anyone else might say. Because women, say you're out for dinner, she might give you a shit test. And what do I mean by that? She might say something subtle, right? Something that's maybe quasi provoking, or, you know, just to get a reaction out of you, just to see how the robot works, right? Just to see, hey, what happens if I press this button? So when it comes to things like that, try not to take constructive criticism, if you will, or constructive criticism, or just blind, again, just plain old criticism so personally, right? Show you're in control, show you're in control of your emotions, show that you have thick skin, and you can take a joke, right? So women, in my opinion, don't just want a man who has it figured out. I don't think anyone has it figured out. They want a man who is figuring it out, but is figuring it out without fear. So remember that. Remember that your purpose is magnetic. A man on a mission glows differently, and you don't need a throne. You need movement for this. So here's some things you guys, especially young men out there, need to avoid common mistakes and need to dodge them like they are evil demons. Number one, don't chase validation or needing approval. That is the death of attraction. So if you are in your local gym and you're taking constant selfies with your shirt off, making, duck faces and posting them constantly on your, social media feed, we need to start deleting some pictures. You know what I mean? So, so yes, don't chase validation. Another thing is don't overshare your weaknesses so early. Now, I'm not saying don't be vulnerable, because vulnerability is powerful, but it's only powerful when you've already earned respect from the opposite sex. So when you're already respected, then you can show your soft side, right? Then you can show your vulnerabilities and so forth, because you've established trust and rapport by then, hopefully. Another thing you should never do is fake high status. You know what this means, right? Just pretend you have more money than you have, or pretend you're, I don't know, braver than you are, tougher than you are, whatever it is. But however that is expressed in society, the expression of that, don't fake high status, because reality always bleeds through. Remember this: respect is a soil. Without it, there's no seed. And no matter how charismatic you are, it will grow. So there you go. And to finish this, attraction is a survival instinct. And women aren't judging you by your Instagram likes or your fake ass flexes. They're not doing that. They are looking for a man who could survive a tough situation, who's passed through a crucible, who can survive a storm, and can prioritize and protect what matters. So master your mind, master your craft, whatever it is you're going to dedicate yourself to, and master your presence. And again, that requires introspection, self reflection, and self awareness. Because real attraction starts when you become dangerous to your own weaknesses. So I want to share that wisdom with you. I hope you take it on in life to whoever hears this, episode, and hope it's helpful. And like always, remember to lift more, eat more, rest more, love more, and hate less. Thank you guys.